call to order the May 20th Milford City Council meeting. Will you please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence? And during the moment of silence, please keep in your prayers all the recent tornado victims. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Evans,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parrish.
Here.
Mr. Velardo.
Here.
Mr. Price, Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Cooper,
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Here. Do I have a motion to excuse Mr. Price?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Parrish.
Yes.
Mr. Velardo.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Yes. All right, our first thing on our agenda, always a fun time. We get to hear from Miss Barbara Friend about Poppy Day.
Yes, I want to
You can
thank,
pull that down if you need to. There you go.
yes, I want to thank Mayor Evans, council members, and guests for having me here tonight. I am Barbara Friend. I am a member of the American Legion Auxiliary at the Legion Post 450. And I'm here tonight to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you the Poppy story. And after World War I, there was a flourishment of poppies in Europe. And scientists said that the reason for it was because of the lime that was left after the rubbish was left after World War I. And in 1918, a Canadian doctor who was also a soldier wrote a poem called Flanders Fields. And it became very famous at the time. And there was a woman, she was a professor, her name was Moy Michael, and she wrote another poem. And hers was called We Shall Keep the Faith. And she vowed that she would wear a red poppy in remembrance of the soldiers who lost their lives in the war. So she petitioned for a long time, well, from 1918 to 1921, and her work paid off, because in 1921, the poppy was adopted as the symbol of remembrance for soldiers of the war. And the American Legion Auxiliary is who distributes the poppies. The members of the American Legion family, basically it's the auxiliary. We distribute poppies, and then in return, then you give us a donation. And all the monies that are raised from poppy distribution go directly to veterans. This, as an example, our auxiliary this year donated hats, scarves, and gloves to the VA hospital, over $900 worth. And the red poppies, as you all have one by your seat, the red poppies are made by veterans for veterans. And there was a shortage. There probably still is a shortage because there aren't enough veterans to make, because they're made in a nursing home up in Toledo. And I will be at Kroger's on Lila with my granddaughter, who is a junior member, and my husband, who is a veteran, and we will be distributing poppies for anybody who would like to come and get one.
And that's
And
Friday?
that's Friday, the 23rd, which is National Poppy Day, and I believe Mayor Evans
Yes.
is going to have something.
says, whereas the American Legion and Auxiliary American Legion Post 450 recognizes and supports the importance of honoring those who have worn our nation's uniform, and whereas poppies are worn and displayed as a symbolic tribute to our fallen, the future of living veterans and service members, and whereas at the end of World War I, the American Legion family has long utilized the red poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by troops in war times, and whereas wearing a poppy will remind Americans of the sacrifices made by our veterans while protecting our freedoms. Now therefore, I, Lisa Evans, on behalf of my colleagues on the Milford City Council, and by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Milford, do proclaim May 23rd, 2025 as National Poppy Day. Congratulations. Hopefully everybody will come to Kroger and get their poppy and then wear them to the parade on Monday.
Right, I will also be at the parade, and if I have any left,
Okay.
we'll distribute it.
All right, well, there you go. Thank you. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have another proclamation. It is National Public Works Week proclamation. So it says, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Milford. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it's in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Milford to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public work programs in their respective communities. Whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Resolved, as it be now, I, Lisa Evans, Mayor of the City of Milford, do hereby designate the week of May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies to pay tribute to our public works professionals. I think ours in the city of Milford have earned their keep in the last week or two with their infrastructure problems. So we will pass that along to the Public Works. All right, next on the agenda is proceedings. Do I have a motion to approve the council meeting proceedings from May 8th?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
And financial statements, do I have a motion to receive the April 2025 finance statements?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes. And that takes us to public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment? Just state your name and address and the reason you are here. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Mayor Evans, City Council. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. My name is Greg Gentile. I am Deputy Auditor of Outside Services and here on behalf of and serve at the pleasure of Linda Fraley. Linda has asked me to be out in the community and be a liaison with the departments and the entities. So I spend a lot of time at trustee meetings and city councils. This is my first at Milford. Important to me is our data that we collect. We have information on all parcels in the county and all finances of the county and the county departments. What may be important to you is the value of the entities in your taxing districts. That data is available on our website and is updated daily, and so would love an opportunity to show, if anybody is interested, how to get at that data, because it's not super intuitive, but once I can teach you how to fish, then you can find a lot of data on our website. And for the residents and taxpayers, we have an open data site with all the financials of the county, our budgets, operating budgets, and property tax dollars collected. That is it. Any questions?
I know you've shown me some things here when we met down at the open house, down at the brewery, the event. Most of that data is just stuff that's been on there, we just probably didn't realize it. Is that correct, or is it new?
It's a well-kept secret.
Yeah.
Real estate agents go to our property search for sure, and residents do. That's an easy look, because you can look at your property, you can look up somebody's property. About 5 buttons over from that is an open data site, which will open you up into a world of all the finances of the county, the payroll for 1,400 employees of the county, our budgets, operating budgets by entity. So it's pretty interesting, and I think I'd love to see more people be able to use it and departments use it to be more efficient and know that the data's out there. So I'm available to come up at any time and meet with anyone here, and we can kind of go through that website.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions? No? Okay, thank you. That takes us, do we have any other public comments? All right, that takes us to the city manager report. Mr. Gunderson?
Thank you, Mayor. In light of Public Works Week, I wanted to start on the topic of State Route 28. And, you know, the past 2 weeks going into 3 weeks, I've been so proud of our team. We've hit every possible variable that would create a roadblock, everything from hitting gas lines, water lines, sewer lines. The infrastructure was literally crippling. And we've had vehicles take out guardrails, and you know, there's been a lot of challenges we've had to navigate, but it's always a good reminder of how great of a team we have, and how knowledgeable and experienced and the work ethics that we have here at the city. So I just wanted to bring that up and let everyone know that all of the infrastructure replacement has been completed. The water did turn on at about 5 a.m. this morning, so pending dry weather tomorrow, we will be opening up State Route 28 and allowing traffic to go the regular path. Now, we will be sort of reconfiguring the lanes. We are working with a paving company to come in and patch the road for a short-term, working from a short-term mindset, and then actually what we did is we got creative and we tacked on to our yearly paving schedule that area of roadway, so that way they'll mill it and repave it, and it saved us a boatload of money. So kudos to the team for their creativity. So we appreciate the patience. We are trying our best to get this completed. We want this completed just as quickly and efficiently as the community. So we appreciate everyone's patience and understanding as we look to conclude this project. Moving on, city staff held another meeting with our consultants for the Wallace Avenue Water Tower, simply just to discuss project updates and any needed changes. We do have some equipment up there, and they're starting to sort of work on the ground and get that started, so we're moving in the right direction there. We were made aware of 2 grants this past week. In 2023, we received a grant for a backup generator at the water plant. We originally thought we lost that grant. However, we have until July to submit for reimbursement. So that's back on the table. So we received an updated quote. We're working through the proper steps to ensure that we take full advantage of that grant opportunity. As well as last week, we received notification that the city received a OPWC grant for the wastewater UV ball project. That's about a $560,000 project, and received about a $275,000 loan. So totally unexpected, but we're very grateful for that. So that was a great news to receive last week. City staff met with our city lobbyists to discuss income taxes, property taxes, marijuana legislation, other economic development efforts. That's a good conversation to sort of get better ideas of what legislation is going through the state legislature, as well as provide our input on some of that stuff. And as we have projects that come about, ensuring that we're seeking all possible funding to offset that cost is in our best interest. So we continue to really push those efforts. Staff held a kickoff meeting with our new nuisance software, and that is slated to go live on July 28th. The city is also working through the process of accepting the job applications for the finance director. The first round of review will be next Tuesday. We've got some very solid applicants thus far, so we'll have that first round review next Tuesday. And the last thing I wanted to throw out there was the city of Milford. We got news yesterday that we are receiving a intern through the Green Umbrella organization. That's an intern that spends between 20 to 30 hours a week here at the city, and it is at no cost to us. That's part of being part of that organization. So we're excited to have the intern on board, and there's a lot of good things that are in the works as it relates to that sustainability committee and some of the efforts that we look to really push through. So that's my report. The only other things that I want to discuss are upcoming events. We've got our first farmers market this upcoming weekend at 5 Points Landing Park. So we're excited to get that underway, and that is a weekly thing. However, this will be the first weekend, so come out and support the local businesses and small businesses. On May 26th, we'll have our Memorial Day Parade at 9:30. We'll also be off that day. City offices will be closed due to the holiday. We've got Frontier Days coming up, May 29th through the 31st. We also have a farmer's market that day, as well as my wedding, so big celebration that day. And our next council meeting will be June 17th. So unless there's any questions.
June 10th, by the way. June 10th, we moved it to June 10th.
I think we started with June 10th and moved it to the
Moved it
17th.
back.
Oh, we did? Oh, I didn't know we moved it back. It's fine with me, I'm just,
Yeah, because I was under the same impression you were, and somebody corrected me.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna be there now on the 17th.
yeah, I didn't know we moved it back. We didn't officially do that.
Well, maybe this is a prank. I guess I'm the only one showing
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Oh, I'm happy to do whatever, I'm just saying, I have it, I thought we moved it to June 10th.
I think we discussed the dates, but I thought then we decided to make them all the third Tuesday, but I don't know when we did that.
Yeah,
It was pending planning commission. If it didn't coordinate with the other meetings that were going on, then we were going to leave it the same.
Okay.
So-
Oh, that's right, because, yeah, planning commission is the
Correct.
second.
so for the record, it's the 17th?
Correct.
17th.
Okay.
17?
Else be
Because
here.
otherwise
Jackie,
it
17?
conflicts with planning
I'll be-
commission,
I'm
which
glad
is
Jackie's
the-
here to keep us all straight.
I know.
Well,
All right,
Benjamin will be here
thank
on the
you.
10th.
He'll still be on his honeymoon, if he ever plans it. All right, that takes us to the police report. Chief
Thank you,
Mills.
Mayor. As much as I hesitate to mention road closures, I do want to remind residents about some very temporary road closures. As Mr. Gunderson mentioned, our Memorial Day Parade is Monday. We will be closing Main Street from Mill Street to 5 Points at 9 o'clock. The parade starts at 9:30. And then on Thursday, for our annual Frontier Days Parade, Lila Avenue from Mohawk to 5 Points shuts down at 5:30, and then Main Street shuts down from 5 Points to downtown at 6. The parade starts at 6:30. Fingers crossed for good weather.
Yes,
That's all I have.
all right, thank you very much. That takes us to Fire and EMS, Chief Baird.
Jamie was amazingly short. I didn't have time to prepare. Just a few things. We're really proud. If you saw the weekly reports come out, we've had graduates from 2 different leadership programs. First, District Chief Nick Thiel and District Chief Miles Miller completed their 2 years of study in the Ohio Fire Executive Program. That is, in Jamie's world, that would be similar to PELC. It's a leadership, a high-level leadership training for aspiring chief and chief officers, and they did great. I was so proud that Miles was asked to do to bless the meal. There was probably, I'm guessing, about 200 people in attendance. I believe there were 22 graduates from the program this session, and it was just an incredible experience. I had never been up there for their graduation before. It was impressive. It really was. But we're very proud of those 2 men. In addition, we had 2 firefighter paramedics, Anthony Smith and Alexander Baird, complete the Leadership Academy at Loveland, Ohio. The Leadership Academy is a 7-department cooperative production to train company officers and what we call the ride-ups, the people who replace the company officers when the company officers are on days off, to handle more effectively the 95% of their job per day that is really more of dealing with the human resource and the off, not on an emergency part of their jobs. And that was a really great to see that graduation in May. I was a graduate of the program 3 years ago, and we've moved nearly all of our officers. Councilman Thompson, wearing his other hats, been through the program, and it's just an opportunity for them to see how the other departments, Blue Ash, Mason, Goshen Township, those are some of them, how they do business, and it's a great networking opportunity, and it's well produced, and I'm very proud of the graduates from both of those programs. We brought 4 new members on the department, 2 of them young fellers. Matthew Bowman is a former Bethel Tate Fire Department cadet, now a part-timer with their department, now a part-timer with our department. Jacob Bellcamp was a New Richmond cadet and a part-time New Richmond firefighter now. Jacob is the son of the fire chief in New Richmond, Tim Feldkamp. John Gatch is a Harris Park volunteer who is coming on to our department as a volunteer member as well. And we welcomed back Wesley Hartoin. Wes Hartoin is a former career member from our place. He left to pursue another opportunity, but about a year after came back, now about a year later, came and asked if he could work part-time for us. Again, that's great. Finally, I just want to point out that in addition to being Public Works Week, I believe is what it was said, this is National EMS Week in our country. This is probably known to you, but not many people. About 80% of our firefighters' work on a daily basis is emergency medical calls, and EMS is really the mainstay of the firefighters' work in our country, and it's so important. We are part of that. The EMS workers are a big part of that safety net, joining law enforcement in making sure that our community is safe and as safe of a community as it can be. I'm very proud of the EMS work that we do. We're surrounded by neighbors that also do premier EMS work, and we rely on those neighbors not on a daily basis, but on a regular basis when we are busy, as well as they rely on us. And so, National EMS Week, and that's really all I have. Do you have any questions for me? A lot going on at the firehouse, just nothing to really brag about. It's just work. Spring break. It's spring cleaning week, so
Yeah, there you go.
the firefighters are busy going through the mark list, spiffing up the firehouse. So,
And your new sign looks really nice, too.
I'm sorry. Oh,
The
thank
new
you.
sign looks really
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you very much. I'll give compliments to volunteer Chuck Evans. Chuck has assumed complete responsibility for programming the sign, and I send him text about every other week saying, hey, that was a really cool slide that you put up there. So
Then we have to drive by and look at it.
yeah, then you have to review it.
3 o'clock, come on, let's go.
Well, I really like the one that's all about the community. So
Well, and that's our motto,
yes.
and that one stays on there permanently. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Valero.
No, and just, I was going to bring it up in council comments, but while you're up there, I've actually had 2 residents last week ask me about, and again, if they're there, I'm not aware, AEDs in the park. Have we looked at that or ever looked at that, or?
We have. In response to an inquiry about 2 weeks old at this point,
Yeah.
District Chief Miller returned correspondence to Jackie and Ed Hackmeister, who I guess fielded the original inquiry with some ideas on that. I will tell you that to do it, the AED is the lesser expensive part of the,
Oh, I
of the
agree.
project. The security measures to do it. I'm not saying it's a bad project at all. And I know that they are very popular in the parks in greater Cincinnati. But it would be one of those things where the city would have to look at what the continuing cost of that would be. Important equipment, there's no doubt about it. Chief Miller returned some very valid comments, and I'll just ask Jackie, if you don't mind, would you please share those Chief Miller's comments to at least kind of give you an idea where the starting point is, if you will?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, both Miami, Loveland, and I don't know the others, all have them in all their parks. So I do believe that our residents are used to going places around there.
Yeah.
And to your point, they do have some security features that are obviously needed. But again, I think since it is EMS week and everything else on the tub, and again, it's probably the same person that inquired to you, but they asked why we don't have them in our parks.
And that's, let me be very clear. I completely support the concept. It just, one of the obstacles that you have to get past is the ongoing maintenance and security of them. And I think Chief Miller made some very good comments that would be a good place to start the conversation. And if Jackie would mind just going ahead and sharing those, please. So, but we're on board with it. Whatever we can do to promote it, great. We're all on it. We believe in it. We're so happy that Chief Mills was able to secure through a grant AEDs for the cruisers. There's just no getting around the fact that that AEDs and good quality CPR by people who are not first responders but who witness the problem and take action are the key to saving a life in a cardiac arrest situation. As both of the firefighters on the panel here will tell you, that we have reached a point in time in the maturity of our business with CPR standards and training the way it is, with pre-hospital public, the actions of citizens and people who witness the problem, the equipment that's been made available to us, especially the automatic CPR devices that have come into, that's almost standard equipment on every ambulance in our area now. The out-of-hospital survivor rate for cardiac arrest is as high as it's ever been. And it does start with early intervention with AEDs and good quality CPR. So thank you for that question. I think it's very much worth pursuing.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I was going to bring it up
it's all
anyway.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, Chief.
Sure, thank you. That takes us to council comments. Any on council like to make a comment?
Well, I made my one, but I got more than one, but go ahead.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just have one, just as part of the Memorial Day Parade Committee, a shout out to Castrucci, who always loans us vehicles, the police for shutting down the roads, the scouts, the band, Miami Township in cooperation with Milford. So please come out and watch, and thank you to all who make it happen.
Thank you.
And then, in light of, not to put our city manager on the spot, but in light of our most recent failure of our sewer pipe, can we, and maybe it's already in the works, but identify a more proactive approach? I think we started this years ago, and I think somewhere down the road it fell by the wayside, where we used to go in and sleeve all the sewer lines that we could. If we couldn't sleeve them, we earmarked them for replacement. Obviously, we had a catastrophic failure, but it was also found because of some deferred proactive approach with the water line, it was also in failing position. And fortunately, we've made a lot of positive changes within those departments. I think that we can help identify that, but I would hope us as council are willing. I mean, it's obviously not a inexpensive fix, but something that we certainly may not have budgeted this year, but may have to take a more proactive approach, because though we're getting this done, that's been a long 3 weeks of, I don't think Center Street and Brooklyn Avenue has ever had so much traffic. And I apologize to all those residents down there. They're getting used to it. And then the other comment I have before we go into committee as a whole, and I'm 100% on board with this process that we're doing. I think it engages all of us. But when we had done these in the past, when it came to spending money and things like that, typically we had either a spreadsheet with multiple bids, a minimum of 2 to 3 bids on these projects, where some of these things may or may not, if they do have those bids, they're not in this packet, is just that we would go back to having either 3 bids on for most of these expenses, if possible, or at least an explanation. I know there's a pump in there. A lot of times those, we can only get one of those, and so, but there would normally have been a explanation. And I would just like to see us at least have that information ahead of time, so that when we talk as committee as a whole, that I think we can accurately discuss the pros and cons of whatever we're trying to approve those expenses for.
Understood. I will say everything that's on here has at least a minimum of 2 bids. I only provided the one that I'm recommending, but I will ensure that in future packets that we have all of those bids or quotes, so that way we can view it all.
But I think the sound was not working on Facebook at the beginning of the meeting, so you give a quick update again about the 28 closure.
Yeah. With the exception of 28 does not have multiple bids because that was.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was talking about.
No. I just wanted to clarify that. So as it relates to State Route 28, we have completed the water line replacement and the sewer line replacement. The water was turned off about 4:45 last night and was turned back on at 5 a.m. this morning. So starting at 5 a.m., there's a 24-hour boil advisory for the affected areas that we've put on Facebook. And we can reshare that so that way everyone is kept in the loop on that. In terms of the road closure itself, we expect that it will be open to the normal flow of traffic tomorrow. It would have been today, however, the rain hurts our abilities to patch the road. And then starting on Thursday, Friday at the latest, we'll get the road patched so that way the normal flow of traffic will revert back to the original direction, lanes, etc. So, to reemphasize, we're under a 24-hour boil advisory that will end at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then the road should open at the latest Friday after the needed road repairs are completed.
And the boil advisory, I know we put out a map, but it's strictly for those general, not the whole
Correct.
city.
Correct.
Obviously, everything up off of 131's on a separate line, and then
Yeah,
everywhere else.
just the affected area.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Any other council comments?
Yeah, I had one just from a community reminder standpoint. On Saturday, June 14th in Riverside Park, the first ever Claremont County Pride is happening. So I just wanted to put that out to the community. It looks like it's going to be a gigantic event with lots of vendors and lots of fun, so looking forward to that.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else? All right, that takes us to our committee of the whole meeting. Do I have a motion to enter into the committee of the whole meeting?
So moved?
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes. All right, so I'll call to order the May 20th committee of the whole meeting. Jackie, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Evans? Vice
Yes.
Mayor Parrish?
Here.
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Velardo?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Here. Okay, that takes us to public comments. Would anyone from the public like to make a comment regarding anything on the agenda or anything else? All right, that takes us to Mr. Gunderson and the first item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. First on the agenda is the termination agreement related to Kirk Jewelers. What I'm seeking is a ordinance to pass the termination agreement, which in turn would allow us the ability to repurchase 25 Main Street with the intent of strategizing for future economic development purposes.
I would go ahead already and make the recommendation that the law director draft an ordinance, draft an ordinance authorizing an agreement to terminate the agreement to sell 25 Main Street.
Second?
Mayor Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's good.
Yeah, he's got his Coke, he's good. Alrighty, next on the agenda is this can be for discussion. I do have, I will be seeking an ordinance to complete this action. Provided in the packet was a memo created by our finance consultant to transfer money from Red Tree Investments to Star Ohio. So currently we have our investments with Red Tree. Provided on the memo is a two-column sort of chart that shows our average portfolio balance, the fiscal year 2024 interest rates, comparing Red Tree versus Star Ohio, our gross interest income. And the key difference I want to highlight here is the interest income. Star Ohio is significantly higher. But the other key difference is the fact that Star Ohio does not have any management fees. So currently, we pay on average $1,000 a month for management fees, and simply, a lot of our investments are locked up for multiple years. So we're paying $1,000 a month for them to lock it up for several years. So we're getting a lower interest rate, and we're paying for them to, in turn, theoretically watch it as like we do.
Benjamin, do you know, has this been this way for multiple years? So we've been losing out, in this case, $50,000?
So based off of what we've been able to see, I don't have the exact number, but Star Ohio certainly appears to have consistently a little bit higher of an interest rate, but consistently they don't have the management fees. So that is one of the key differences that I know for a fact separates them.
So that's not an introductory offer. That's as long as our money sits with them, there will never, ever be a management fee.
In the past, they have had no management fees whatsoever.
Okay.
Now, I can't make that decision for them. However, I will certainly lobby that decision and say that's in our best interest. So, but no, that's not an introduction.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah. So the other thing is then the net interest income. You look at the difference. So within the memo, Tom did a pretty good job of showing everything. There's also the spreadsheet on the second page. And quite frankly, in my opinion, this is in our best interest. We're leaving money on the table, and with Star Ohio, it is pretty liquid. In the event that we had an emergency and we had to transfer funds, usually it takes 48 hours max. So it's a far more liquid investment, and it gives us a greater turn. So my ask is I'm suggesting to council to create an ordinance to allow us to transfer the balance from Red Tree Investments to Star Ohio.
Unless anyone has any questions, I would go ahead and make a recommendation that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to close the city's investment accounts with Red Tree Investment Group and transfer such investment accounts to Star Ohio.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, this is simply for discussion. Next steps would be at the earliest next meeting, but I wanted to really discuss this with council and provide some further insight. Tom also provided another memo to council to discuss a few of our topics related. Specifically, what I want to focus on is the trash. So when I first started, one of my first meetings was out of the utilities and looking at water, wastewater, stormwater, and the trash rates. And we had to really sit down and look at what is that, putting our future forward-thinking goggles on, how is it that we make these funds more sustainable? And I know that the trash fund, there's maybe different opinions on that, but the fact is we subsidize that about $300,000 a year. So that is taken out of our general fund, so the general fund is short, theoretically, $300,000 a year. What I am recommending is we move that to our we move the trash services or contract to our stormwater fund. And the theory behind that is by moving it to stormwater, we have about $1.8 million in the stormwater fund. Now, we haven't, we don't have any planned projects per se, but we know that stormwater projects are needed. So I'm not disregarding that by any means. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to free up the general fund, and by moving this to stormwater, we theoretically spread the impact because of the fund balance we have in stormwater. So by putting that into stormwater, we'd be able to take that $300,000 subsidy out of the general fund and move that into stormwater, and that would give us more time to really evaluate what that rate looks like. And what I'm getting at is it would allow us to prolong any increases, certainly big increases, because we were able to subsidize that through that fund balance. So I wanted to discuss that with council and see if council was in interest, or if they were interested in completing such thing. And like I said, this is simply for discussion. But I think that this would be a creative way to continue that service, continue subsidizing that service, but also free up that money within our general fund that we could utilize and leverage in other projects and areas.
The only caveat that I would have is that we have projects that we were told, and again, this is nothing against who's sitting in that chair, but we were told we didn't have the money to do a lot of these projects over the last couple of years. There's a Garfield Avenue project. I mean, if you've ever been on Garfield, that flooding, Laurel Avenue, we were supposed to do that 10 years ago. I believe you have a relative who might be impacted by that.
Yes.
Who can attest to that. So as long as we, again, move forward with these projects in a more timely manner. I mean, these residents, it's at least 10 years, I know. And I know Lisa, and again, the only reason we never did it is because we were always told we couldn't afford to do it.
Right.
So that would be my only caveat, that if it's a 1.8 million, whatever those are, we really need to fix these problems that we have, again, got some really bad guidance. And again, we've made the changes that need to be made now, but now that we know the true information, that we need to ensure that we are moving forward with these stormwater projects. Because I believe, I can't remember, there's X amount of dollars that funds that account every billing cycle. I don't remember what that formula is off the top of my head. But again, I'm 100% agreement that we move it, as long as we don't shortchange any of our stormwater projects.
And I would agree with that, and that plays to your previous point regarding council comments and that of strategizing for water and wastewater projects. That is a fundamental task that we need to be doing. I think the biggest difference here, or the biggest point, is that of, stormwater is a utility fund. The general fund is the general fund, which means it's more flexible. So this would give us more flexibility to utilize those funds. So I would be in agreement that this is in no way saying we're not doing stormwater projects. This is just freeing up more of the general fund that we can leverage in other places other than just one area.
Any other comments?
Perfect. And then the next thing on this agenda, or on this item itself, is the idea of creating a budget stabilization fund. So essentially what this would do is we would leave the required amount of money within the general fund, which is 20%. Well, I think it's 16%, but we plan for 20%. That we would leave in the general fund, and what we would do is we would transfer the rest over to what we would call a budget stabilization fund. So that would be putting it in simplified terms, our savings account. And what that would allow us to do is that would say, hey, okay, we're going to budget accordingly to each of our, our utility funds are going to stay the same. It really just impacts the general fund specifically, but we can show, year over year. These are the projects we're budgeting for, professional services we're budgeting for, but the remaining money would be put into the budget stabilization or our savings account, and say, hey, this is, if things go bad, this is the money that we have in the reserve. So it's sort of separating it from the general fund and bringing more transparency to what we would have in what I would call a savings account. And that would allow for us to also, I think, have an idea as to, hey, if we need to, if we have emergency projects or something like that, we know that we've got X amount of dollars that if we had to, we could utilize to pay for those costs. So this is just, once again, an idea, a discussion to see if council is on board with that. Tom provided a memo that would give you a little bit more in-depth understanding as to what we're proposing. But I did want to bring that up and discuss that with council. And that would be something that would certainly take time and would be a decision made by council.
So this is the infamous rainy day fund? For
It's
lack
the
of a better term?
rainy day fund, because the 20%'s the rainy day.
Yeah.
So this is an extra
Beyond.
super rainy day fund,
So
okay.
this would be the tsunami.
This would be somebody's building an ark in the parking lot fund. There you go.
Yeah.
Great, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Alrighty, thank you. All right, moving on. Another discussion point. I wanted to present I presented on this topic previously. However, there's been a few variables that have changed. I discussed a couple months ago the idea of putting a FC Cincinnati mini pitch in one of the parks, and at that time, we had discussed the idea of putting the mini pitch in one of the parks during fiscal year 2026. However, FC Cincinnati had to rearrange their schedule, and they said that we would love to do Milford in 2025 with a timeline of installing the mini pitch in September of this year, so September of 2025. So what I put in the packet was a aerial map. Certainly the mini pitch is going to look far better than the green square rectangle that's on there, but it gives a good idea as to location. This is in Riverside 2. We had discussed three locations, two of them being Riverside 2, one of them being in Riverside 1, and both FC Cincinnati and Moats, which is their, really it's the company that's actually constructing the mini pitch and doing the groundwork and everything that is associated with it. They felt that this was the best location for the mini pitch. So they like the close proximity and visibility of the downtown. They like all the surrounding amenities to Riverside 2. And they just really like this location. So I wanted to bring this before council. The next step would be at the June 17th meeting. They would have a letter of intent, and at that point we would have circulated the costs. Up to this point, they are covering all of the costs in terms of the mini pitch. The only request they have out of us is if we want to put landscaping around the mini pitch. They're looking for a temporary sort of driveway to the location. So if it's equipment and materials, they've got a pathway. That would be a temporary gravel pathway, and then it would be taken away once the project is completed, and then it would be grass and whatever landscape is surrounding it. That is the only cost that they're asking for at this point, and I'll continue to. Once I get a better idea as to what that looks like cost-wise, then we'll figure it out. But we're looking to complete as many items in-house to save on the outside costs from their standpoint. That that's a partnership. So we're doing what we can to better facilitate that. So just wanted to bring that before council, get any opinions, discussions regarding that. And like I said, if the next step would be a letter of intent at the June meeting, and construction wouldn't start until September 1st if all goes as planned, and they would have it up and running by late September, early October.
My only suggestion was that maybe the field gets moved a little bit farther from the playground, if possible, just in case we ever expand that playground or want to do something more in that area, that we'd have space. Yeah, move it to look at the picture to the left. Well, otherwise, I love the location.
Yeah, and I guess I should emphasize the real reason behind that location is because of the flatness of the area, so in terms of water, but also there's a light right there, so allowing for more play through the dark hours, we'll call it, nighttime.
Could you explain for the general public that's going, what is a mini pitch? What is a mini pitch,
Absolutely.
Mr. Gunderson?
Absolutely. So the mini pitch is it's like a mini soccer field, so it's fully enclosed. It's all turf, and really the idea behind the mini pitch is it's another amenity to offer to parks. It allows for all ages really to play soccer within the mini pitch, and there's two goals here. So there's the public use, so anyone from the public can go and play soccer within the mini pitch itself.
All the
it's
time,
just
the
open
park
play.
is open,
Yeah.
okay.
But then the other goal is to partner with a local nonprofit to offer more reoccurring. So if it's a soccer camp or classes or a little league or something like that, they like some of those nonprofit efforts to encourage use out of the mini pitch and encourage people to utilize it on a more regular basis. So it's really just a fun way to have a mini soccer field within the park. It's almost like a hockey arena with nets around it. You got the side walls, you got the nets, and then you got the soccer nets and the nets above it, and it's just a fun way to play soccer.
And it's all funded. It's
Yes,
all,
we're not paying
that's key. It's all funded. Is there any sustainability that comes with it? Like who maintains it, or are we then, they don't come back and maintain it a year from now, 5 years from now, or whatever?
So the only maintenance that we have on it from a recurring basis is if there's leaves, we would go and blow the leaves off. So if there's sticks, we'd take the sticks off the turf. Anything related to the mini pitch itself, maintenance-wise, they take care of. So in 10 years from now, if the turf goes bad, then they will go back and replace the turf. So they're actually now starting to get to that point where they're having their first couple replacement examples in which they're having to go back and replace the turf. But that is all on them. We have very small maintenance requirements related to the mini pitch.
And that's, to me, one of the appeal from
Yeah.
our standpoint. We get an amenity that we can utilize, take care of, promote, and somebody else pays for it.
If people want to see one, they have one at Lunkin Playfields. There's one there.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Lunkin,
West Side.
Does that Blue Ash Place have one yet? Deer Park, Silverton, anywhere else?
Clear Creek.
Okay, yeah.
Whitewater.
Just checking, just Milford,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Only in Claremont County.
We are the home of FC Cincinnati,
Yeah.
so
That's
right.
we should have one.
So this is, I think, pretty exciting. This is a $150,000 to $200,000 investment. So I think it's pretty exciting and neat. And alrighty, moving on, and I will turn this section over to our law director, Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Gunderson. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about some proposed charter changes. And I know Mr. Gunderson, after I'm through with these, that Mr. Gunderson will tell or ask council how they would like to approach the public input that is both desired, solicited, and needed before, if and when council wants to go any further with respect to changes. So let me just kind of outline these generally. I know I've provided this document to council. I know council's seen the red line. So a couple of things that ought to be contemplated and suggested vis-a-vis our current charter. And I'll just go, these are all redlined. These are already available on the website, if correct, I believe, right? So anybody who wants to go on can already see them. But council, rightly so, wanted to make the public aware and have however many discussions they want to about them. Because I think they, for what it's worth, I think they make a lot of sense in representing at least 4 other charter municipalities. These are just good government kind of things, more efficient. There's nothing unlawful about what we're doing. We're not changing because we have our hair on fire about something, but we think there are more efficiencies, some of which have been articulated even tonight in terms of how council operates and why council's had to have a committee on the whole meeting and why it needs emergencies to pass legislation and so forth for even to handle expenses related to State Route 28. So let me get to those. So in terms of qualifications for council, right now it's a 90-day residency. We'd move that to a year. In terms of your terms of office, instead of January 1, you'd start December 1, that being council members. The point there is that the less lame duck time you have, the better. The example is the United States. Before, I don't want to take the test and flunk it, but somewhere, I believe around FDR, it might have been please don't send me emails if I'm wrong. I admit I may be wrong. At some point, we moved the inauguration time from March to January. Same kind of principle here, just less lame duck, period. Executive session, we would follow Ohio law, which we do anyway. We just make it a little more explicit in the charter. Some of these changes are less, they're gender neutral, or they're no longer referring to he. We're changing all that. Also, we are removing the manager residency requirement because some cases have challenged that. The case law goes back and forth on that. I frankly am of the opinion that you ought not to limit in the charter who sits in that seat. I think that limits you, but that's not for me to decide. That's for you all and the voters. But I think that's good practice. The other thing too is the same thing for the clerk of council. We're removing that. The law director did not have that requirement. It does in some other charters, and those have been actually changed in some of my other entities. This also, generally speaking, you have a city manager form of government. That essentially means city manager is responsible for every employee hired by the city. Folks think that you as city council run things. That's not how the charter envisions. You're like a board of directors. I'm not lecturing you on your duties. It's more for the public. this is the board of directors. No board of directors sits and manages the day-to-day affairs. They hire a CEO to do it. It's the same concept here. It ought to be familiar with all folks when they think about it in those terms. So the city manager is responsible for all the employees. Council is responsible for hiring 3 people. That Benjamin, myself, and Jackie as the clerk, and everything else is handled by Benjamin. This just kind of clarifies that, and all the changes are made there. I won't go through each one, but this clarifies that in terms of all the department heads that they all report to the manager, and also because they report to the manager would also then have their removal authority. Some of these other positions come back to council. I don't think that makes a lot of sense for any number of reasons. I don't want to get into a bunch of them right here. I'm happy to in a public session, more public session. It's not the issue. It's just I don't need to get into them now. It's just more flexibility. And at the end of the day, if we're going to have a manager form of government and he's responsible, or she, or whoever's sitting in that seat are responsible, then they report to you. And if you don't like what they did, then you take care of the person sitting in that chair. So you have the ultimate power in that sense anyway. Now, kind of operationally, if you go to section 11.09, this involves purchasing and contracting authority. You see the impact even tonight. Right now, you have to bid contracts except for professional or expert personal services or for real or present emergencies. We've had a couple of those tonight. Right now at $40,000. $40,000 does not buy you a lot and requires competitive bidding for a lot of projects that you can't do. The general bidding threshold right now under Ohio law is roughly $78,000 and change, depending on the project. So I think what we ought to do, and this is how a lot of my other jurisdictions do it, is they tie their bidding requirement to that general amount provided by law. I think that just makes sense. You're operating consistent with all other municipalities, or a lot of other municipalities who have charters. I'm not saying that you're the only one that doesn't do that, but I'm saying most others do tie it to general law, and I think that makes sense. The other thing too is you must authorize by ordinance every expenditure over $7,500. That is both archaic and anachronistic, and I think it limits. For instance, that's why Mr. Gunderson has to come to you to ask to approve landscaping for $12,500. And you can keep doing that way. Hey, it's more mic time for me reading ordinances, so hallelujah. But I do think that from an efficiency standpoint, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It hamstrings what he can do, and it also makes it harder to operate. These items are budgeted. It's not like somebody slips something by you. You don't see them. He reports them to you. It's not like you don't have the oversight, but it's essentially mining the dollars or the literal sense, and that's what you've hired him to do as the chief executive officer. So from my perspective, you change the 75 to the minimum bidding amount, which is, again, $78,000 and some change right now. Now, that is a huge hike from $7,500. But in fairness, $7,500 is an amount that has not been around. Even townships allow their administrator to go up to $10,000. So again, not consistent with Ohio, but that's okay. If you don't like it, you don't have to vote for it. That's fine. But I think it makes a lot of sense. The other thing too, just from an operational standpoint, that I really think is operating by committee. And that is, you cannot propose an ordinance unless it's passed and recommended by a committee. And I just think that is inefficient and requires you to have an additional meeting in the middle, like all this is required. We've had to have the committee of the whole meeting in the middle of the council meeting in order to pass the ordinances. We would do that at a regular meeting anyway. It seems like an extra meeting that's not needed. We're not trying to be less transparent. In fact, we're trying to be more efficient so we don't have to have committee meetings. The other potential problem too is that the way it's worded now and the way committees have worked in the past, there are 3 members on a committee. If 3 members did not recommend an ordinance, it wouldn't come before you. That doesn't, unless you went through the committee of the whole and you got 4 members to say we want the ordinance on, and then you'd have to kind of go through that process. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Again, if council or the public doesn't like those changes, then we'll continue to operate, and we'll operate very efficiently and effectively. So those are, in general terms, are the changes, the major changes that I see. Again, there's some other language changes. I'm not going to go through all the cleanups. Again, anybody can see it online. We're happy to talk about them at all the public sessions. But those are the general changes. Any questions? and I think Mr. Gunderson was going to talk about the seeking direction from council about how to further engage the public. One other thing, in order to get this on the, sorry, Benjamin, in order to get this on the ballot on time, we would need to pass something, if council's so inclined, and we're not there yet, but if council's so inclined at the July 16th meeting, yeah, at the July 16th meeting, to get it to the Board of Elections, the respective Board of Elections, to have it on the ballot in time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. The
I
only,
have one other, finish that, but I have one other matter that kind of relates. But go ahead.
my turn or your turn?
No, your turn, sir.
All right.
I report to you.
The only two things I'll add is this will be highlighted on our website no later than tomorrow. It'll be right on the front page. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that, where they can find it. Second thing that I am asking and recommending to council is that we hold 2 public hearings, one of them being the June 17th meeting and one being the July 15th meeting. We already have council meetings on those days, so it's a very easy opportunity to offer public hearings. Now, if we wanted to do separate public hearings, we'll call it a special public hearing at a different date, then we can certainly do so. But I think it's a no-brainer to offer the public hearing on the days that we have council. So that is my one recommendation.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you plan on doing it early or just during the regular time frame?
Well, that can be up to council. We can do it during the meeting, or we can do it prior to the meeting. We could just make it part of the
I think
agenda.
typically, we have a lighter, during the summer, we usually have a lighter agenda. I know we're going to go to one, but typically our agendas are typically lighter.
Yeah.
So
At the beginning of our meeting? Just do
Yeah,
it right at 7
yeah,
o'clock.
we'll do it right at the 7 o'clock, and that gives time, gives anyone time to get here and do whatever, so.
Do we need a motion to?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I need a motion to have a public hearing on July 17th, or June 17th and July 15th at 7 o'clock PM. Public hearing to review proposed charter changes.
I would make a motion that we have a public hearing at 7 PM during our next 2 regularly scheduled city council meetings to review potential city charter changes.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Now, with some indulgence, this is not a city issue, but it is something that impacts the city, and you as council members should be aware. After a bunch of procedural and court wranglings, the Attorney General and the ballot board have now allowed a initiative petition, a proposed constitutional amendment, assuming it allows, or it now is able for people to circulate a petition. Whether they get enough signatures or not, that's still to be seen. So it's not yet on the ballot, but it allows people to talk about removing qualified immunity. And I'm not at a loss for words. I'm at a loss for whether to say them or not. There are significant consequences for government employees if this amendment passed, at least as currently written. The first thing is this just does not apply to police officers. Everybody hears qualified immunity. They think of one particular incident that happened 5 years ago, and they say, get rid of qualified immunity. And I say, not so fast. There are consequences there. It's a terrible case. Justice needs to be done, but that doesn't mean you undo all of what's there in the law. From my perspective, qualified immunity is very important because all it says is that you will not be held liable if you did not violate clearly established law. Now, you think about that. Would you want to be held to a standard that said, you as an individual? Well, what I did wasn't necessarily right, but I didn't know that it violated clearly established law. That's all it's saying. If you violated clearly established law, you don't get qualified immunity. And this doesn't just apply to officers, this applies to every government employee. Teachers, employed by public schools, firefighters, EMS, etc. So it applies to every government employee. So again, it's not a city issue in that Milford doesn't vote, but it does have city impacts, because if you take away the qualified immunity protections, then what you, and you take away some sovereign immunity, which would also, this amendment, at least as currently written, would do, then that has potential monetary impacts on what recovery is, on frankly what your liability insurance could be. It also ultimately has hiring impacts. Because if you're a government official and you know you don't have qualified immunity, you're going to scratch your head a little bit. And I already know in other jurisdictions, I'm not going to put either Chief Baird or Chief Mills on the spot, but I know it would have an impact on hiring because I hear every other jurisdiction I talk about this. So again, it's not a Milford issue in the sense that you have nothing to do with it. I'm speaking as the city, or as the law director, knowing that this kind of amendment will have real-world impacts on what we do as a city. Vote however you want. That isn't my point. My point is to say this will have real-world impacts, and you should just be aware of them and aware that if you see a petition out there, you should have questions about it, look at the language, and think about the consequences.
Well, and I was in Columbus today at a legislative conference, and that specific thing was brought up. And one of the biggest impacts to our fine law director's point is the ability to attract new applicants for, especially in public safety. But again, it's not just public safety, it's any city employee whatsoever. So it would certainly have a lasting impact, and I would just encourage our residents to know what they're signing if they're asked. And again, I'm not advocating one way or the other, that's obviously someone's opinion, but again, it certainly has bigger ramifications just in, you know, in these ballot initiatives. My understanding, it doesn't have a lot of traction as far as the amount of signatures that you need to get it on there, but again, it is out there, that's for sure.
Again, just to confirm, it defines government actor as any political subdivision or any public employee of that political subdivision. So it's not just for police officers, it's for every government employee, political subdivision employee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, back to Mr. Gunderson.
Alrighty, thank you. Next on the agenda is State Route 28 water and sewer repairs. You do not have anything in your packet related to that. I think it's important to provide some narrative to this. So how this really started was it was a water leak that turned into the sewer line was it had collapsed, and it went from a small water leak to we needed to replace an entire 400-foot sewer line because you literally poked it and it collapsed, and then since you had to dig 4 feet under the water line, when looking at the water line within that 400-foot section, there was about a dozen water line fixes because the water line is in such bad repair. So we took the approach that this is something that we needed to replace at the same time, simultaneously, not only because of the age and the shape of the existing infrastructure, but because we wanted to do it right from the start. So what I am requesting is there is an ordinance to allow me to spend not to exceed $275,000. And unfortunately, that's what it turned into. It turned into a water leak to a 6-foot section of a sewer line to that of a $200,000 project. Now, we've been able to get pretty creative with the structuring of paying some of this off. We reduced our paving budget by about $94,000. That was because we budgeted an amount that was prior to sending it out to bid. So we saved money there. We budgeted for a salt truck this year. The service department is wanting to put that off until next year. However, they want to purchase a skid steer that would significantly help operations. We were able to knock that down $40,000 and save money there. We budget in each department $25,000 in emergency spending, contingency spending. So that was $50,000 there. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find areas that we can, get a little flexible, of course, within the bounds, to pay some of these costs. And we've been fortunate to have a few of our items come in under bid that has allowed us to do so. So instead of piecemealing this, so we get an ordinance for, or a bill for $2,000, then it might be $20,000. I'd rather just do a blanket ordinance that allows us to pay the costs associated with these repairs. like I said, we've been creative. We added the paving to the annual paving schedule, so that spread the cost significantly. And we've tried to find ways to pay for this, but it needed to be done. It was an emergency type measure. In fact, about 800 feet down the road, we thought we had another sewer line collapse, and knock on wood, it was something we were able to fix rather quickly. But the point is that whole road needs, well, not the whole road, but a large sections of that road needs to be replaced. And this was something that was an initial effort to, work in that direction. So the ordinance itself is it's a blanket ordinance to allow me to pay for those bills, because once again, some of them come in at $2,500, some of them are over $20,000. So this would allow me to pay for those bills.
And see, this is precisely the point, because currently under the charter, he can't pay a bill over $7,500 without coming to you for an ordinance. And again, the point is not to hide this or to be not transparent, it's to be efficient. It's so, you can pay the bills for an emergency. Otherwise, they'd have to wait till they came to the ordinance for you to approve it, depending on your council meeting.
Fair enough.
And I will throw out there, the reason why this doesn't have multiple bids is, one, because this was an emergency situation. What we've been able to do.
Which is already allowed for under the charter anyway, but just, that's another reason.
Correct. But what we've been able to do is we've been able to actually lessen the cost, because we've actually purchased a lot of these items directly. So we've reduced some of that built-in cost by going with the contractor, and they've simply charged us labor. So that's been a huge way to reduce the cost as well.
Unless anybody has any questions, I would recommend that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to spend an amount not to exceed $275,000 for real and present emergency costs associated with the State Route 28 water and sewer main repair costs.
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to jump to Happy Hollow real quick, since we're talking about infrastructure and it's a fun topic. So Happy Hollow lift station, that's the lift station that's backed by Castrucci. It's a lift station that simply services, I think it's about 5 or 6 apartment buildings, and it recently, well, quite frankly, it crashed, it flooded, it got backed up. We actually thought at one point that the sewage was going to be backed up into the apartment buildings themselves. So fortunately, we had a very proactive and fast-thinking wastewater plant supervisor. We've been able to bypass some of these issues by renting pumps. But the pumps themselves are not really adequate, and it's not a long-term solution. It does just enough to get it up the hill, but barely. So we have to pump it up the hill that will get it to the wastewater plant. So we had to act fast. We did receive 3 quotes. The one that I'm recommending is $109,000. One of them was $118,000, and one of them was just $95,000. That didn't include labor. So we got 3 different quotes on that. But once again, why this is so important is because we have inadequate equipment there that is a Band-Aid solution. And unfortunately, this is something that it costs a lot of money. It services, 6 apartment buildings, but I believe, if I remember correctly, this was installed or we took over in the early 80s. So we've had quite a good, little lifespan here. But it is extremely important to get on this, because this has to do with sewage, and if that bypass pump fails, then that sewage goes into the residences. So it's extremely important to get this done, and I'm asking for permission to do that.
My only question, maybe it's not related. There's some sort of erosion or to that, where that line goes up there. Is that related in that same general area? Right now, it's been there for a while.
Oh, Mohawk?
Yeah, I know we've either had some infrastructure issues there, and again, I don't know if that's where that line comes up or whatever, so I don't know. And we've had
That fencing's been up for
fencing.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
I know that hasn't come up in discussion. I can't
Okay.
with 100% certainty say that it goes along that hillside there, but that
But
It
again,
hasn't been
while we're
brought up.
there fixing, I'm just saying, I didn't know if that's where the pipe, I thought that might have been where the pipe went up once upon a time and it's collapsed. But again, it's not related to the operation of the pump by any sense of the mean, but it obviously could be related to what you're pumping underground up to that area, so.
Yeah. And since we're a little lost in the weeds, as it relates to the Mohawk thing, that's something that we're addressing. Actually, what we discussed today was if we could tack it onto the Main and Lila project, we get the sidewalk out of there, right there at Mohawk. We rip the sidewalk off, and if we can sort of tack it onto that Main and Lila project, that would allow us to reduce the cost of concrete significantly. So the goal is to reduce as much as possible, and if we can do that internally, then we don't have to go to the residents themselves and ask for help or assistance in terms of funding it. So neither here nor there, but since we're lost in the weeds, I figured I would just wiggle out a little bit.
I would recommend an ordinance authorizing, I would recommend that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Henry P. Thompson Company for Happy Hollow lift station pumps for $109,766.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the resolution to apply for NatureWorks funding. This is the one that I am totally unprepared for, and I'm seeking council's input on this. I do not have a project that I'm necessarily pursuing. I think we've got tons of park projects, but I wanted to throw this off council, and quite frankly, I probably should have thrown this off the park committee as well. I ran out of time. This is due June 1st. I believe it's June 1st or June 15th. First. So if there's anything, I know we got tons of projects or ideas related to 5 Points, but I didn't want to only focus on 5 Points. So if there's other parks that we could discuss, and like I said, I came unprepared for this. But if anyone has any comments on this, certainly open to it. Otherwise, if we just pass the resolution, I'll find something that we can fit within the budget and we'll apply accordingly. The Claremont County, this program continues to really lessen the amount of money you can really receive. And, you used to be able to fund a lot of stuff. Now it's not as much stuff. I forget exactly, I can look up exactly how much Claremont County has, but I know the previous county I was in had like $40,000. So for the whole county. And, some of the bigger counties have like $100,000, but you can barely, afford a playground for $100,000 these days. So it's something that can be leveraged and can be utilized, but I just wanted to throw that out to council to see if there's any recommendations.
Could this be used to resurface the tennis courts at Sim and maybe put pickleball lines on them and add benches, just spruce up that area?
It absolutely could.
Could we maybe look down that line of thought at rehabilitating the asphalt basketball court at Clartoma and maybe the play equipment that's there, that during the public hearing when we were entertaining potentially the idea of selling that, people brought up comments that the play equipment there is not in great shape, so we could maybe even use it to rehabilitate some of that stuff.
And more pickleball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, either.
Okay. So I've taken council's comments. I'll figure out what we can do internally. It's a 75-25 match, 75-25 split. So I'll see what we can find within the budget, and I'll report to council, and we can submit multiple applications. So it's not like I can only do one thing. So that's why I purposely did a blanket resolution to allow me to submit. So.
I would then recommend a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for NatureWorks funding for eligible projects from ODNR.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is a ordinance as it relates to landscaping for City Hall. This has been a conversation probably for the last 30 days, and, quite frankly, City Hall is what people see when they come to get a permit, when they come to see their water, or pay their water bill, when they come here for help. I think it's extremely important to have a presentable building and have a presentable location for people to seek help. And I think a lot of that starts with the outside. I know that City Hall went through we'll call it a beautification in terms of painting the building how many years ago. But I think that parking lot is in dire need of assistance. This idea, I met with or spoke with 2 different people regarding the landscaping, and I think that it once again, it's very important because that's what people see. It really would spruce up this with City Hall. So what I'm recommending is an estimate, and I had some expertise that also assisted me with coming up with this quote, and I know I've got the right stuff here. So due to this being over my spending limit, I'm seeking council's permission to spruce the parking lot up, and with this quote, once again, we received 2 quotes. We were able to reduce the quote a little bit, or the estimate a little bit, simply by leveraging our internal assets and being able to rip out some of the plants and trees and shrubs and so forth. So we did what we could to reduce it, and so yeah, unless there's any questions.
I would recommend then that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Outside Influence LLC for City Hall landscaping improvements.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Anything else?
The one last thing I have on this agenda is, and it's simply for discussion, there's no required action here. I mean, there's going to be an action, but it doesn't require an ordinance. The city recently had received the unofficial audit results for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. When the state completes these audits, they give council the opportunity to sit through, we'll call it an audit exit interview. So there's three different routes you can take. Either you can do no interview at all and you simply, just accept the results. You can conduct an exit interview with staff only and the auditors, go through the results, and it's an internal thing. Or you can go the third route, which includes council, staff, and the state auditors, walk through the audit results, and that would be an opportunity for council to not only understand more in depth what those results look like, but also answer any questions or comments as needed. So my job is simply to bring the options to the table and let council decide how we should proceed.
Typically, I would have said no. However, with our recent change, I think it might be a good education on my part, just to hear, to see, because again, I think over the last few years, we were given information that was, it wasn't criminal, wasn't illegal, but it was just not accurate. And it was more misfeasance than malfeasance. But I think it would, personally, I think it might benefit all of us just to have a better understanding of what maybe we should look for, as the next person comes around. And again, typically I would say absolutely no, but because of what we've been through here lately, I just think we might all benefit from it.
I agree.
All right, so what I'm going to do then is I will send out an email seeking dates and times of availability so we can coordinate that with the state auditor's office. And I try to get them to give me dates, but they put the ball in our court. So I'll seek council's availability and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. All right, thanks. Thanks, Rob.
I think that's everything, unless there's any questions.
Whew. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
All right, that takes us back to the regular meeting and new business ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 25-356, an ordinance authorizing an agreement to terminate the agreement to sell 25 Main Street. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Milford, Ohio, Section 1, by ordinance number 23-211, the City Council previously authorized the sale of 25 Main Street under the terms of the purchase agreement attached to that ordinance. Having determined that it is in the public interest, City Council wants to terminate the purchase agreement and to re-obtain ownership of 25 Main Street under the terms of the attached termination agreement. Subject to the approval of the City Manager and the Law Director, the terms and conditions of this agreement agreement are fully incorporated herein in their entirety as if fully rewritten herein pursuant to and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-356, an ordinance authorizing an agreement to terminate the agreement to sell 25 Main Street.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-358, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to close the city's investment accounts with Red Tree Investment Group and to transfer such investment accounts to Star Ohio. Whereas Section 11.09 of the city charter provides that the, quote, Director of Finance shall invest any surplus, interim, reserve, active, or inactive funds into such investments as council shall direct by ordinance. And whereas the city's depository for public money, Star Ohio will pay an interest rate on city monies matching the Red Tree Investment Group interest rate, and whereas by depositing monies with Star Ohio, the city receives both the benefit of the same interest rate earned with Red Tree Investment Group plus the liquidity of the funds, and such transfer will also reduce the rate the city pays by approximately $1,000 per month. Whereas as a result, to achieve these benefits, the city desires to close its investment accounts with Red Tree Investment Group and to transfer such accounts and monies to Star Ohio. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. Because the Director of Finance position is currently vacant, council hereby authorizes the city manager to close the city's investment accounts with Red Tree Investment Group and to transfer such monies and accounts to Star Ohio. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect immediately as provided in sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-358, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to close the city's investment accounts with Red Tree Investment Group and to transfer such investment accounts to Star Ohio.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-359, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to spend an amount not to exceed $275,000 for real and present emergency costs associated with the State Route 28 water and sewer main repair costs. Whereas the city of Milford experienced unexpected water line breaks and deterioration of sewer lines that required emergency repairs. Whereas in order to address the real and present emergency repairs caused by the unexpected water line breaks, the city of Milford replaced 400 feet of infrastructure to eliminate aging and deteriorated infrastructure and replace that infrastructure. Whereas the city of Milford has received dozens of bills totaling above and below the city manager's spending authority under the city charter. And whereas section 11.09 of the charter provides that the competitive bidding is not required for such professional or expert services or to address real or present emergencies like that caused by water line breaks. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City Municipality of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to pay the costs associated with the emergency repairs of the State Route 28 water line and sewer line. City Council recognizes the need for the emergency repairs, recognizes the efficiency of passing an ordinance to pay all costs, and permits the city manager to pay any of the bills associated with the project at an amount not to exceed $275,000. Section 2, under and in accordance with sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-359, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to spend an amount not to exceed $275,000 for real and present emergency costs associated with the State Route 28 water and sewer main repair costs.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-360, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Outside Influence LLC for City Hall landscaping improvements. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. The Council of the City of Milford hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with Outside Influence LLC for landscaping improvements at 745 Center Street for the contract amount of $12,157. The terms and conditions of said agreement are hereby incorporated herein by reference in their entirety pursuant to and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-360, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Outside Influence for City Hall LLC for City Hall landscaping improvements.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
I would note, is there any better name for a landscaping company than Outside Influence? I just think that's outstanding. Anyway, and I have no dog in that, so people don't write me there either. I was just making a comment. Ordinance number 25-361, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Henry P. Thompson Company for Happy Hollow lift station pumps for $109,766. Whereas the city of Milford experienced damaged and inoperable lift station equipment at the Happy Hollow lift station, and whereas if the city does not fix the lift station as quickly as possible, the city will incur significant cost to rent proper equipment to manage the situation until then. If such good equipment fails, the lift station could experience significant sewage backup onto surrounding residential properties. And whereas in accordance with Section 11.09 of the Milford City Charter, due to the real and present emergency of trying to prevent potentially significant sewage backup onto surrounding residential properties by fixing the lift station as quickly as possible, competitive bidding is not required. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to purchase 2 pumps from Henry P. Thompson Company, specifically Happy Hollow lift station pumps for $109,766 per the attached quote due to the real and present emergency without competitive bidding as provided in Section 11.09 of the City Charter. The attached quote is fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-361, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Henry P. Thompson Company for Happy Hollow lift station pumps for $109,766, $109,766.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Yes, I would say in this case it's running uphill. Ordinance number, resolution 2025-665, a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for NatureWorks funding for eligible projects from ODNR. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Milford, Ohio, Section 1, NatureWorks is a state-funded grant program that provides up to 75% of project cost assistance to Ohio municipalities, counties, township, joint recreation districts, park districts, and conservancy districts for acquisition or development of public outdoor recreation areas. To obtain such assistance for city-eligible products from ODNR's Nature Work Program, City Council authorizes the city manager to submit an application to ODNR for such funds. City Council supports such application. The city manager is further authorized to sign any and all additional documents necessary to effectuate this resolution and any grant application. Section 2, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage by City Council as provided in Section 12.07 of the Milford City Charter.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor.
That takes us to old business.
Ms. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to and in accordance with Section 3.052 of the Milford City Charter, 121.22 G2, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property at competitive bidding. If premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal or private interest is adverse to the general public interest, and executive session pursuant to and in accordance with section 3.051 of the Milford City Charter, 121.22G1, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
Have a second?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes. All right, so we will only be returning to adjourn the meeting.